Okay, we'll go ahead and begin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the May 4th Washington County Planning Commission. This evening, we will be live streaming our meeting, virtual meeting, and I hope everyone who is watching and listening can bear with us as we work through the process. This will be our first time handling our meetings in this manner. Before we begin, we will introduce the members of the board. I am Clint Wiley, and I'm the chairman. Present this evening is Jeremiah Weddle. And Jeremiah, if you could introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Jared Weddle.
Denny Reeder, I don't know if he's on yet, but he will be on shortly. BJ Getz.
Here.
Drew Bowen. He may not have joined yet either. I know he's on his way. And Randy Wagner.
Randy Wagner here.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. The first item on this evening's agenda are the minutes. It's the March 2nd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those? Are there any changes, recommendations, questions? If not, I'll need a motion and a second to approve.
This is
Make a
BJ.
motion.
Approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So I'll need a roll of those who voted in favor. Can you please state your name?
Jeremiah Weddle.
BJ Getz.
Randy Wagner.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. I need to take a quick break. I just got an email from Drew Bowen, and he's sent a message saying that he is unable to rejoin this meeting because he was previously removed by a host. Is anyone there that can help him?
He must have been the one that signed in with an incorrect name and did not indicate who he was. He would have to call in.
Okay, I'll ask him to call in. I'm sorry, everybody. I didn't mean to do this. This is sort of we're sort of working through the issues here as we go. I'll just send him that message real quick.
We did just have a phone number ending in 937. If you could unmute and state your name.
Yeah, that's Drew.
I'm unmuted. Okay.
All right, we've got Drew Bowen. Okay. So Drew, just to catch you up, we've just concluded the minutes, and next on our agenda this evening is new business. The first item is modifications. This is Herbert and Joyce Nussbaum, OM-10-005, modification request for a panhandle length to exceed 400 feet and to permit the additional stacking of a third lot between two existing lots on property located at 20148 Toms Road in Boonesboro. The zoning is agricultural rural, and the planner is Lisa Kelly. Good evening, Lisa. I think she's still muted.
We have presented as a modification for Herbert and Joyce Nussbaum. The subject site is located along the north side of Toms Road. Zoning is agriculture rural, and up on your computer screen is the layout of the proposal. The lot in question tonight is highlighted in yellow, which is the proposed Lot 3. The Nussbaums would like to create 2 new lots, Lot 3 and Lot 4, and 4 is shown close to Tom's Road there and is outlined in red. The zoning, as mentioned, is agriculture rural. They are proposing to create these 2 lots in order to convey them to an immediate family member. The panhandle for Lot 3 exceeds the 400-foot maximum. It is proposed at 692 feet. The design also proposes the stacking of 1 additional lot, which is Lot 3, behind existing lots 1 and 2, which would create a 3-tier stacking. And you can see the darker outlines of lots 1 and 2 that were created several years back. The modification is from sections 405.11G1 and 405.11G2 of the subdivision ordinance, which restricts panhandle length to 400 feet maximum and prohibits the 3-tier stacking of lots. Only 2 are allowed to be stacked. This was reviewed by our county engineer reviewer, Rebecca Calamer. She had no objections to the proposal. George Nagel is the consultant for the Nussbaums, and he is with Fox and Associates, and he is online tonight. If you have any further questions that you would like to ask him, or if you have any questions of me, I don't have anything else to add to what I already stated and what was in your agenda packet. So again, this would be for 2 modifications, for the stacking of 3 lots and the panhandle length.
Thank you, Lisa. Are there any questions from members of the board?
Lisa, Randy Wagner.
Yeah.
What's the recommendation of the staff?
We have no objection. We don't really ever say we're for or, well, we'll say we're against it if there's something really awry as far as,
Thank you.
road conditions or something. But we have no major objection to it. Rebecca reviewed it from the engineering standpoint and didn't see any issues with Tom's Road at this site.
Well, that's for immediate family member, lot 3 at least, right?
3 and 4 are both for immediate family members.
And that, okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, if there are no further questions, I would look for a motion from a member.
This is Drew. Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Chair Weddle, motion second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? So carried, although I would like to have a roll call just for the record, please. If everyone who voted in favor could just state their name one at a time.
Chair Weddle,
Drew
BJ
Bowen.
Getz.
Denny Reader.
Okay.
Randy Wagner.
All right, great. Thank you, guys. I know that's outside the norm, but we just want to make sure in this format that we've got everything
Hey,
accounted for.
hey, Clint,
Yes.
just a suggestion, have everyone vote individually and you would be done.
All right, that'll work. We'll do that going forward then. Next item on this evening's agenda under land preservation, we have recertification of the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Program. And Chris Boggs has that presentation. Chris?
Good evening. This is Chris Boggs, Land Preservation Planner for the Washington County Department of Planning and Zoning. And this is kind of a regular item. It's the recertification for the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation, is specifically Washington County's recertification. And the main gist of it is that we, as a certified county, there are many certified counties in the state. As a certified county, we retain 75% of our state ag land transfer taxes, our ag transfer taxes. So if we weren't certified, we would only retain 33% of the state ag transfer taxes. So it can be a significant amount depending on the year and just how much ag transfer tax is collected. Either way, you'd prefer to retain 75% as opposed to 33%. So in order to retain this certification, every 3 years, we're required to produce a what they call a checklist. And that is, it basically goes through all of our land use, our land preservation numbers for the past 3 years, any changes to land use policy, and it covers previous changes to policy that we've made and how those changes have affected positively or negatively the land preservation program in the county. In addition to the report itself, the state requires us to provide a running tally of all of the easements that we have preserved over the past 3 years. And this year was the first time they asked us for a complete list of all of the easement properties that the county has ever preserved. So luckily I have people like Megan to help me compile that data, or else it would take a lot longer. Basically, what it comes down to is, when we have to make these reports, it's you go back at the last one and you see, what we did and how we've improved, what we've done since, and any changes that need to be made. Our report for 2019, which is the report we're talking about here, has changes on page 4, 6, and 7. Mostly addressing the PPA's, priority preservation areas, and some land use management practices and their effectiveness. Of course, we know the end goal is to preserve 50,000 acres in the county, and of course, we're a good stretch of the way at over 34,000 at this point. Basically, what we do is we take that ag transfer tax that the state remits back to us, and what we generally do with it is we use it for our Maryland Ag Land Preservation Foundation easements toward a mechanism they call the 60-40 match, which means that if we put up 40% of the money, the state will match it with 60%. So you can see how having the full 75% retention is going to help us in that measure. At this point, we have provided drafts to the Maryland Department of Planning and the Maryland Department of Agriculture. They've reviewed them. They're happy with them. They're waiting for the signed documents from the county. The Ag Advisory Board has already approved the document. Next step is to have the Planning Commission to approve the document before we bring it up in front of the commissioners here, hopefully within the next few weeks, for county commissioner approval. So what I'm asking the Planning Commission tonight is to approve the final certification for the county for the Maryland Ag Land Preservation Foundation recertification that for the 2019 recertification report. Any questions?
Sounds like a no-brainer to me, at least. So any members of the board with questions for Chris? Any comments from members of the board? If there are no questions or comments, then I would need a motion.
This is Denny Reader. Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
second, Chair Weddle.
Okay, and I know Randy is going to recuse himself on this one. I'm going to take a roll call for vote. Jeremiah, in favor or opposed?
Favor.
Denny Reader,
In favor?
BJ Getz,
In favor?
Drew Bowen.
In favor.
Okay. So that motion is carried.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
The next item on this evening's agenda under Forest Conservation, 17119 Virginia Avenue LLC is FP-20-003. It's a request to use a payment in lieu to meet forest conservation requirements for property located at 17119 Virginia Avenue. The zoning is industrial restricted and business general, and the planner is Travis Allen. Good evening, Travis.
Good evening, everyone. Travis Allen, Comprehensive Planner with Planning and Zoning. As stated, this is a request to utilize the payment in lieu of option to meet forest mitigation for FP-20-003. Frederick Seibert and Associates is the consulting agency who has put together this plan. Owner is 17119 Virginia Avenue LLC, and it includes 3 different parcels right around that location, 17109, 17119, and then the third one doesn't have an address, all totaling 7.61 acres. So just to give you a little background of how we got to this point with the forest conservation on this site, in 2004, there was a forest stand delineation and forest conservation plan submitted for the Valley Car Wash, which I'm sure probably most, if not all of you guys are familiar with where that is on Virginia Avenue. That particular plan proposed to meet the forest mitigation entirely by retaining forest on site in the amount of 1.77 acres. For reasons that we haven't been able to determine, that plan was not recorded at the time. So essentially what we've had going on there is disturbance that was unmitigated for the last 15 years or so. So bring it forward to January of 2019, and our office became aware that forest clearing was going on these parcels without any prior submission of a plan or any permits in place at that time. So by July of 2019, they did then submit a grading plan for county review. That particular plan did not address forest conservation. Finally, after continued dialogue with the applicant and the owner, we did get a forest stand delineation submitted. Part of the thing that's problematic about people clearing the trees before they have any plans submitted is that at that point, it's very difficult to put together a forest stand delineation, because for the most part, the trees are physically removed from the site. So we utilize a combination of aerial photography and then sampling the remaining trees that were left to sort of piece together what would have been there previously. And that kind of brings us up to the present. This current plan, FP-20-003, was submitted in February of 2020 to address this unauthorized forest clearing on the 3 different parcels. So in comparison to the past, we're now, the applicant is now asking to retain the remaining forest that's left, which is 1.404 acres, and meet the rest of the planting requirement from the worksheet with the payment in lieu of option. So as you've heard me describe during these presentations before, this deals with the Washington County Forest Conservation Ordinance, Article 10, Preferred Sequence of Mitigation. That article describes the preferred sequence of techniques for meeting forest mitigation, ranging from on-site planting or retention all the way down to the payment in lieu of option at the bottom. We do try to preserve or create as much forest on site as possible before moving it off site so that the environmental benefits are retained in the same watershed. So if deviating from the preferred sequence, justification has to be provided by a qualified professional licensed forester or licensed landscape architect, and reviewed by the Planning Commission. Again, the payment in lieu of option is the least preferred option in the sequence. And we provide this documentation to DNR, always have, but there is increasing scrutiny over both the collection and expenditure of payment in lieu of funds in recent years. The state actually just passed a Senate bill last year, which does place even greater scrutiny on the collection and use of these funds statewide, not just in Washington County, but throughout the entire state. So in your agenda packets, you should have 4 pieces of information. You have my memo, which kind of summarizes that history that I just laid out. You have the current forest conservation plan that Megan has up on the screen for us. You also have the 2004 plan that was not recorded. And then you have a justification letter from the qualified professional dated March 16th, 2020. So to kind of conclude here in analyzing this request, in that justification letter, their primary reasons for utilizing the payment in lieu option is that either creating new forest on site would hinder future development for the property, and according to the applicant anyway, they've experienced vagrancy issues on the property. To make clear, though, the purpose of these justification letters is to demonstrate why those other techniques in Article 10 are not feasible for the site. And given the content of the letter, it's difficult to evaluate whether those options are or are not really available for this site, because they kind of just skip straight to recommending the payment in lieu of option. So whether they are or are not feasible is not entirely clear from the letter that was provided to us. In making the decision, the Planning Commission should again consider that this current proposal retains less forest on site than what was proposed in 2004, and that this forest clearing took place without any plan submission or authorization prior to it occurring. So the decision is before you guys to allow them to utilize the payment in lieu option, or potentially recommend that they evaluate other options to meet their remaining planting requirement.
Hey, this is Randy Wagner. I got a question. From the very beginning of your conversation, did you say that, for lack of better terms, that that there was a mishap on recording that, or did I hear that wrong?
Yes, the plan that you have, which shows the 1.77 acre forest easement that Megan put up, I think the slide before this one, is what the original forest conservation plan was for the Valley Car Wash. So if that had been in place, there would have been a permanent easement already there on site, and there probably would not have been as much forest clearing as occurred, recently, just because there would have been the easement there. There very likely would have been permanent signage there, so it may have turned out differently in terms of how much forest they would have cleared if that plan had been recorded and in place.
Whose shoulders would that mistake have fallen upon? I'm a little confused.
The applicant, the property owner is responsible for maintaining the condition of the easement. The county monitors the easement. Essentially, all we do is to make sure that there is the right amount of acres there to offset the mitigation for the development.
I guess what my question is it wasn't recorded. Who would have recorded that?
That's generally something that is the responsibility of the consulting firm. The county also is in charge of sort of making sure that check and balance is taken care of before the project is completely approved as well. So it's kind of mostly the actual applicant that goes and records it, but the county should be making sure it's recorded before final approval letters are issued.
Okay, thank you.
Travis, this is Clint. Do you have any idea what the cost for the payment in lieu of will be?
Right now, it's a bit more than $14,000 that they would be looking to pay into the fund.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty significant. And, my take is Mr. Stilk has been a pretty decent landowner throughout the county for a long time. And when you read the letter from Frederick Seibert and Associates, it sounds like, he wasn't really thinking about, it doesn't sound like it was an intentional destruction of forestation. It looks like he was trying to alleviate a problem on the property. In my opinion, I'd be in favor of payment in lieu. But I'm interested in anybody else's thoughts or questions for Travis. So if any board member has anything further for Travis, please feel free to chime in.
This is Drew. What do we do with the money payment in lieu of? Do we plant trees and put them somewhere else? Is that correct?
Yeah, the money is collected into a dedicated account. The county has had a memorandum of understanding with the Soil Conservation District for more than 20 years now. So basically the Soil Conservation District, once they have those funds released to them, go out and look for landowners that are willing to either put an easement over existing forest on their property or plant new trees on their property, and they utilize the accumulated funds from multiple development projects in order to create easements elsewhere in the county.
Are you aware off the top of your head, is there lots of money sitting in that fund that's not getting used, or does it get used pretty regularly on a frequent basis?
Drew,
Generally,
this is Jill. If I can jump in here, that's a very good question, because I'm sure you're aware of this, that DNR has just in the last year or two in their legislation, through state legislation, put a lot of scrutiny to how this payment in lieu of fund is being spent. We currently have over $500,000 in that account. The bulk of that comes from a payment in lieu of that we accepted from the Trammell Crow project on the north end of Hagerstown. I do want to let the members know that we are working with the Soil Conservation District diligently on trying to get that money spent, because we are required to spend it within a certain period of time. But I will be very blunt about this. We're having difficulty finding people willing to do these easements. Elmer Weibly at its Soil Conservation District is working very hard to find people willing to accept these kind of easements. But the payment for the easement is fairly low, and the liability to it doesn't seem to be enticing people. I think we will spend the money. We will be able to find places to put the money, but I would caution members at this point to be careful about large sums of money being put into the payment in lieu of until we can at least get this $500,000 spent down from the Trammell Crow project. The other issue that I wanted to discuss was this question of vagrancy and whether or not that should be factored into whether or not this is a good idea for forest conservation. I'm going to be honest, we really should not be factoring that. I understand that we do have a homeless problem. I do understand that property owners are worried about the safety and security of their own properties. But the forest conservation really isn't meant to handle the issue of vagrancy. The property owner should be securing their property as they would any other way from those types of problems, through fencing or whatever means necessary to secure their property. I'd hate to see people using this as the reason why they can't continue forest conservation because they're worried that someone might move into there. So just those 2 points, food for thought. I'll leave it to the rest of the members to discuss again.
Are there any questions? How about discussion?
I assume, this is Drew, I assume the applicant does not want the forest easement on his property. If he can avoid it, that's why he's requesting.
I mean, that's generally the reasoning laid out in the letter. I mean, we don't have a plan in hand saying that, you know, that I'm aware of anyway, that the Valley Car Wash is, you know, imminently expanding right this very second. But it's something where, especially for commercial or industrial sites, that's often part of their motivation is to retain that, you know, that limited space they have to expand in the future. But again, you know, along the lines of what Jill was saying, some of that is a little bit speculative because, you know, maybe they'll expand, maybe they won't. It's hard to say. So, you know, factoring that in for the decision at hand right now is something that I think should just be weighed carefully.
This is Drew again. I just want to let you know, this is just my opinion. I'm not a strong supporter of a lot of the if you want it to be successful, you've got to put it on people that want it on their property or would like to have that easement and want that cushion and stuff. I think those are the people where the forests are going to really last and maintain. I think when you force it on some people, or in this particular case, you may be prevent a business from being able to grow, I think the payment in lieu of is fine. That's my personal opinion.
This is Denny Reeder. I agree, Drew. And it's in an area where growth is roads, where we want to keep it tight to town. Likewise.
Hey, Clint, Randy. I tend to agree with everybody else. I guess I focus too much on mishaps. I don't like mishaps, and it muddies everything up, and you just don't know where you're at. And it might not be the case here, but it sort of sounds like there was mishaps. Plus, I think I think it's fine. Jill said, I think if we try hard enough, we can get people to spend that money just for easements.
Okay, so at this point, I think we'd be looking for a motion.
This is Drew. I'll make the motion to accept payment in lieu of for this site.
Is there a second?
Chair Weddle, second.
Okay, I'm going to call roll again. Jeremiah, how do you vote?
In favor.
Denny?
In favor.
BJ?
Abstain.
Drew?
In favor.
And Randy?
In favor.
Okay, so moved. The next item, well, the next section of our agenda is other business. The first item under other business is an update of staff approvals. Ashley Holloway has that. Welcome, Ashley. The floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Again, Ashley Holloway, Director of Plan Review and Permitting. You should have a copy of the staff approvals, correct?
Yes, we do.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, just want to make sure, yes. There's a list of staff approvals for the month of April. As you can see, we have not slowed down. Construction is still taking place. People are still submitting plans and people are still applying for permits. So in the midst of this pandemic, you know, we're still working. We're still working hard, even though we're teleworking half in the office, half at home, but we're still rocking and rolling as usual. There were a total of 29 plans that were given staff approval for April there, as you can see. There were some public works agreements made. There were 3 site plans submitted. And there was 1 stormwater standard plan submitted. There were 4 standard grading plans submitted. Yeah, so that was a large number for standard grading plans. Like I said, we're still busy. So, is there any questions about any staff approvals?
Good.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I'm pleased that even while all this craziness is going on, at least some segments of our economy are locally staying active.
Yes.
That at least is encouraging.
Yes, it is.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Ashley? All right, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next item. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda this evening are changes to the City of Hagerstown MRGA boundary. I'm not sure who has this. Jill, is this for you as well?
Yes, this is actually my project. Sorry, it took me a second there to unmute. I think Megan's given me control here of the screen. Hopefully I can figure out how to do this. What we're gonna talk about here today is the proposed changes that we have been discussing with the City of Hagerstown staff for probably over a year now. You've heard in the past about issues we've been having with the county health department regarding wells, private wells being drilled in the urban growth area, and these issues that we've been having where people either can't get wells and in the same respect can't get public water, so they're becoming stuck in this loophole of a problem. So what we've been doing is working with the staff at the City of Hagerstown to analyze the medium range growth area boundary that is part of their adopted comprehensive plan. The medium range growth area boundary delineates the area where the City of Hagerstown has determined that based upon their growth projections for both residential and non-residential growth are the limits of where they can reasonably serve in terms of their water and sewer capacities. So what we're trying to do with the adjustments that you're going to see here is to sort of reshape the bubble in and around the City of Hagerstown to try to emphasize and make sure we're taking care of our economic development projects that we need. Not sure how to work. There we go. Megan, did you do that?
No, that's you.
Okay. I'm finally learning. Okay. So what you see here is a overall summary of what we have worked on in terms of adjusting the growth areas. Those areas that you see in green along the north and west sides of the growth area are areas where we are seeking to expand the MRGA. Those areas that you see in the reddish color that are on the east and southeast portions of the growth area boundary are those that we are seeking to remove from the medium range growth area boundary. What you're going to see is also a chart showing you the acreages coming and going. So overall, we're
Jill,
seeking to add about 20.
For a quick second? Can I interrupt you
Sure.
for a quick second, Jill? You said the red, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to remove those. Is that what you said, or those are? Is green keeping or is red keeping?
Green, we are going to add. We're proposing to add
Okay.
into the medium range growth
And the red
area.
you're taking out.
The red we're seeking to take out.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had that right. All right,
So-
thanks.
Yep. So acreage wise, it looks very uneven. We're seeking to add about almost 2,300 acres of land, but remove only about 640-ish acres. It seems unbalanced acreage wise. However, when you look at the areas that we are seeking to include into the growth area, a lot of those already have existing water service and are already developed. We included that because they're typically in industrial park areas where we still have some vacant parcels and development that we want to continue. So we're going to mix in existing development with areas that are vacant. So what you're going to see next then is sort of a breakdown of maybe yeah, I got to go back up. So what you see here is the calculations in terms of equivalent dwelling units, or EDUs. This is the term we use for water and sewer in our planning efforts to try to determine how much water and sewer we would have available in our public systems. So when you look at that, you can see that the EDUs are pretty equal. I'm going to clarify this real quick. I was talking to Kathy Marr, who is on the phone call with us, and I'm going to, at the end of this, I will open it up to her comments as well. Kathy and I have been working on this for over a year now, and we've been back and forth. So the one area to be removed, I think it's area 1, includes some acreage that was recently annexed into the town of Funkstown. So because it was annexed into the town of Funkstown, all of those EDUs are now available to the city because they had originally thought that those areas would be developed under the city's regulations. Now that they've been annexed to Funkstown, the Funkstown Water Service will now take over that EDU need. So there's about 400 EDUs we're talking about in there that we are actually to the good on, above and beyond what you see here. So we haven't decided yet what to do with those 400 EDUs. I'm kind of the opinion that we just let them there because the city has already determined that the MRGA boundary as it stands technically really can't even serve what they're anticipating, but you know, that we have to invite some wiggle room into our analysis so that we know that some development could come in that won't use as many EDUs as others. So there will be some minor changes to this, but to go through it, what we have for now, I'll show you first the areas that we are proposing to add into the MRGA. So the first one that you see on your screen now is what we call Area A. It consists of an industrial park. I think McCleary and Early were the ones who put this industrial park together. Interstate 70 borders it to the south. Maryland 63 borders it to the east. This area is for the most part developed out, but there are a few parcels in there that are either vacant or underdeveloped. Another main reason for bringing this into the MRGA would be because it's in our enterprise zone. So there's special tax credits and things like that for people that develop in these parcels that we would want to capture in our MRGA. The next area that you see, I broke it down because it's a rather large area, B. It basically consists of the entire area that's surrounded by Interstate 81 on the west, Showalter Road on the south, US 11 on the east, and State Line to the north. So the first section that you see here is section B1. This includes City Core and some new parcels there that are seeking to develop. You might have heard about the hotel and a couple other small retail services that want to develop there on a couple of those parcels. I think Chief owns several of these parcels and are actively marketing them. So we want to make sure that they have water availability to them. The next area, B2, adjacent to that, again, is right there think this is on the west side, excuse me, east side of 11. This includes Goodwill and AC&T, Fulton Properties, and a couple others in there. Area B3, that big parcel was owned by the county. I think that was part of the old Brumball Farm that the county owns as part of the airport proper. We would seek to include that. It also includes not Lakeside. Who is that? Pennington, Bill Pennington's trailer park up there. B4 is the airport proper. Also includes the new industrial, or the new park there that can't think of the new name of it, where the Fairchild building is. It includes the Bowman property. And like I said, the rest of the airport proper. And then finally in this area B5, this includes the Phoenix Color building and a couple small parcels around it. So this whole area we felt would be smart to include in the MRGA. It's pretty much ripe for development. And I know that our business development folks are marketing this pretty hard. The next area is Area C. We're going back down to the Hewitt's Crossroads. You'll see that the National Pike is on the south side. This is along, again, Greencastle Pike, Maryland 63. This is the Heritage Hewitt property that recently went through a rezoning with the county. They are seeking to actively get permits for that property, and they will likely be signing a pre-annexation agreement. No, there already is a pre-annexation agreement on there, so we would expect them to be able to move forward by adding them. Next area is Area D. We're heading to the south side of Interstate 70, again along the Greencastle Pike. This area includes the FedEx site, as well as some other small parcels that are vacant from the AC&T Fulton group. Area D2 is the Elliott Parkway. This is mostly developed out, but there are a few parcels in there that are vacant and a couple that are underdeveloped. We would definitely want to be able to seek out development in this area. The last part of that Area D is D3. This is the Taylor Farms property. We have been working with them on realigning Wright Road down through there. They are seeking to build a rather large warehouse on that one parcel. And there was discussion at one time about Dot Foods moving to one of those parcels. I'm not sure if that's still on the table, but obviously there's been interest in development on those, so we wanted to include them. The next Area E is pretty small. It's an extension of an existing parcel owned by Bowman. Again, the Greencastle Pike is over there to your right, to the east. It's just a 23-acre parcel that it's a portion of a parcel that's already in the MRGA. We just did that to kind of clean up the line there. Area F is out on Searfoss Pike. You'll see Maryland 58 there on the south side of these properties. This includes Grace Academy, the Hagerstown Soccer Club, and a couple parcels owned by, I think, the Huffman Group. Many of these are already zoned commercial and are seeking water. This is also an area of interest to us because of the Malginsville pump station project that the county is working on to reallocate some wastewater diversion. That'll play a role in this. So we thought since that pipe's going through there, it would be good to have water through there too. move on for me. There we go. The last area that we're looking to add is Area G, again, along the Greencastle Pike. This is actually on the east side of Greencastle Pike. We're trying to gain back as much of the Hopewell Valley North Industrial Park area as we can. Our business development folks tell us that they get a lot of requests for large lots seeking water and sewer. So we're trying to add some of these parcels back in to gain some of that area back that we lost when we reallocated to Sharpsburg Pike and Downsville Pike several years ago. So with the ballots, we had to find areas to then take out of the MRGA. And you're going to find that most of these areas are residential. We had to take out residential to gain commercial. This is area 1. I spoke to this earlier. You can see there's 2 grayed out, big, large grayed out parcels there. Those have been annexed. The Lyles property is annexed into the town of Funkstown. I think there's about 400 EDUs associated with that we could gain and possibly add other land in other locations. And we'll look at that some more with the city as we go on, but all of that would come out of the current MRGA. Area 2 is right by there. You can see it's located to the north side of Interstate 70. It's adjacent to the town of Funkstown, but separated by the creek there. This is all zoned, I think, residential urban, which is a higher end zoning district for residential. We just didn't think that it made sense to keep that in the MRGA at this point, because most likely if that property would develop, it would go into the town of Funkstown. It'd have to be annexed anyway. So we're taking that area out. Area 3 is located on the southeast portion of Hagerstown, out toward the Dual Highway, US 40, Interstate 70 interchange. There's a lot of properties down there that were brought into the growth area during the boom, assuming that there was going to be a shopping center of some kind put into the area. That really fell through. There is no water or sewer on that side of the interstate, and we don't think it would make sense to keep that in the MRGA. We just don't think that the financial capacity is there to bring water or sewer across the interstate at this point. Area 4 are some parcels back off of, I believe that's Landis Road, that winds behind the golf course back there. While they are adjacent to the city of Hagerstown, the possibility of them developing is pretty slim given the road adequacy issues. I think the one parcel there on the north side of Landis Road is actually owned by the county. It's part of the golf course. So we took that out because we don't anticipate giving up any land out there at the golf course, and I think we have plenty of allocation for what we need out there. Area 5 is located on the eastern part of town, out in the Fiddlersburg security area. You'll see that it's on the east side of, can't remember if that's Old Forge, but it's east of Eastern Boulevard there. Several parcels, they're zoned residential. Again, there is no water or sewer capacity out there. They are adjacent to the cement company out there. We wouldn't really want to promote, I don't think, any high-end or high-density development, residential development in that area to begin with. So we decided those would be a good area to take out. Likewise, Area 6 is just to the south of that along the north side of Jefferson Boulevard. You can see there's several parcels in there, again, adjacent to the cement company up there, and several parcels that are outside of existing water and sewer service areas. The last area that we're talking about removing is a small area on the north end of town, related to the Glen Aaron subdivision that came through, probably in the early 2000s. Again, as a result of the boom, there was discussion about a potential development out here that, given the environmental issues with streams and floodplain, we don't anticipate additional growth in that specific area. So that would be another area that we plan to take out. So those areas, again, this culminates into a recommendation, what we're seeking from the Planning Commission in terms of modifying the medium range growth area boundary in order to get a little bit more clarity for developers, where they can anticipate being able to get water, where they won't be able to get water, and try to clarify with and fix some of these issues of people being in the cracks where the city of Hagerstown doesn't have allocation or the ability to serve people, and the health department won't give them a well permit. So we're trying to fix some of those issues. We will have additional changes to the water and sewer plan after this to help streamline those issues even more. But this is the first step in clarifying all of that. I'd like to go ahead and introduce Kathy Marr from the City of Hagerstown. We've been working really close in trying to make sure that these boundaries fit both us as far as economic development and our projected needs, as well as the City of Hagerstown and their allocation and distribution issues. So Kathy, if you don't mind introducing yourself and throwing in your 2 cents here.
Good evening. This is Kathy Marr, the Director of Planning and Code Administration for the City of Hagerstown. It's great to be having this discussion with you tonight on a project Jill and I have been working on for over a year now.
Yeah.
Can I
So,
answer,
like I said, go ahead.
can I answer any questions, or did you need anything specific from me? We got this started originally last March because the City Council was getting frustrated with so many requests for water based on economic development arguments outside the MRGA, and how many of those can we really keep approving and still be respecting what the boundary is trying to accomplish in terms of growth related to our capacity to serve. And so we figured, let's get with the county staff and figure out what are the county's priorities for economic development, to see if we were to adjust the boundary so we wouldn't be constantly getting these requests at the airport area or on the west side of Greencastle Pike, to see, all right, if we put them in, but then we have to also figure out, we have to take some areas out because we have to balance it, because there's only, as Jill mentioned earlier, the medium range growth boundary, we don't have the capacity to serve it full build out. What we do with our plan is we're saying we feel we can serve the projected demand over the life of the plan, the 20 years. And so if we're going to add areas, we need to subtract areas. And so that's what this effort was about, to see what the county's priorities are. And then we'll bring it to the elected bodies and to the City Planning Commission. And then ultimately what would happen would be an amendment to the city comp plan to adjust the boundaries.
So Kathy, this is.
And to add to that, go ahead, Clint, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask, so these adjustments match the kind of requests the city is seeing?
We've been seeing requests for the most part on the west side of the Greencastle Pike and up in the airport area.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Jill.
I'm sorry, this is Jill. I just wanted to add, we have had a team of staff members from both the city and the county working on this for over a year. They include members of staff from both the economic development commissions from both the City of Hagerstown and the county. We've also been working with both the city water and sewer departments and the county water and sewer departments, as well as all of our planning staff. We had a lot of people in on this who had skin in the game, so to say. So this is the proposed amendments at this point to try to again shift this bubble so that the city doesn't have to keep having all of these individual questions come into them and then try to find ways to manipulate the boundary one at a time.
Okay. Members of the commission, any questions, thoughts?
This is Drew. Sounds like making a lot of sense out of it, trying to balance it. I understand capacities of water facilities and stuff, so I appreciate you guys taking the effort to look and try to balance all these different things. I'm sure the property owners, when they find out, are not going to be the happiest people in the world, but this is all part of a comprehensive plan process.
As Jill mentioned earlier, some of these folks on the east side of town, they would have to have really deep pockets to get city water. And we don't have wastewater in the Jefferson Boulevard area.
Any other comments or questions? Jill, what do you need from us tonight?
So what I'm looking from the members tonight is basically a consensus on these changes so that we may present something to the city planning office so that they may move forward with a comprehensive plan amendment.
Okay. Typically, we would just gain consensus, but since that's not necessarily a simple thing to do virtually like this, I'm going to go through the roll call again, if that's okay with everybody. And I would just need to hear a yes or no in favor or against consensus. I'll start with you, Jeremiah.
In favor?
Denny?
In favor?
BJ?
In favor?
Drew?
In favor.
Randy?
Jill, I'm fine. I appreciate all the hard work y'all did on this. And, you know, everybody knows it's something that really needs to be paid attention to, but is this something, what we've talked about, not going to end up in front of the BOCC?
No, I don't anticipate this going in front of the county commissioners. This is really more of a planning function of the planning commission.
Yeah, I thought so. I'm good, Clint.
Okay. So Jill, it looks like we've got consensus for this to move forward and have city staff work with the city council and mayor on making these adjustments.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. I know Kathy really appreciates it. They've been very patient with us over this last year trying to get this stuff together and moving it forward, and this will be good for everybody, I think.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Kathy, for being here.
Sure, thank you.
All right, we'll just move on in the agenda this evening. Then the next item is CIP recommendation, and Jill is handling that as well.
Yeah, thanks, Clint. This is Jill Baker, Director of the Planning and Zoning Office. Before you this evening is the latest draft of the county's capital improvement program. I'm sure most of you know that this is a long-term program for funding and scheduling capital projects throughout the county. We update it every year during the budget process according to our prioritized needs and available revenue. The first year of the 10-year CIP, which Megan, if you'll, which in this case is going to be fiscal year 2021, is really the actual spending of funds that we have available. Everything that you see kind of beyond that is sort of a planning exercise, knowing that you can't just have enough money one year to do a multi-million-dollar project like the county has to do. So you'll see a lot of out-year expenditures there. But what we want to help you focus on is really that area that I have kind of highlighted in a beige peachish color there for year 2021. What we are reviewing this for is for consistency with the comprehensive plan. This is a key part of doing the capital improvement budget every year. It's to make sure that we are expending funds in consistent manner with the comprehensive plan for the county, so that we are putting the infrastructure in place to handle the growth that we expect. So what I did here is, you've probably seen a lot of these projects year after year. Again, like I said, you've got to build up money for these multi-million-dollar projects. So they typically stay on the CIP for multiple years, adding money into those separate accounts there. Highlighted there in the gold yellow color for each of these projects, those are the new projects being added to the CIP this year. So those are the ones that we're going to want to focus on and making sure that they are consistent with the goals of the comprehensive plan. Overall, I do want to make one specific comment to this. The reason that this is coming to you guys later than typically done is because this has been a very fluid document this year. We all know that we are in the throes of an economic crisis here, given the COVID disruption to our daily lives. And the commissioners have taken a very proactive stance in making a very lean budget in anticipation of revenue shortfalls that we expect to see because of people, unfortunately, being unemployed at this point in time. Income tax is what we expect to be the worst hit. The income tax revenue that we see, obviously, with many people being unemployed, furloughed, et cetera, that's going to limit our revenues in terms of the income tax. So what we did is both our operating and capital budgets, we really went to the bone. What you're seeing here in this capital budget is basically a needs-based budget. We only put things in here that we absolutely felt we had to have done this year for safety issues, or because we already have contracts signed or things like that. Just to give you an idea, last year, the FY20 through 29 budget was $56.3 million. For FY21 through 30, you will notice when we get to the bottom, we're estimating a $54.8 million. That's a $2.5 million cut from the previous year, when we were expecting to be coming out of the recession and hopefully being able to make up some ground on some projects that we've had to defer for many years now because of the previous economic recession. So I just wanted to make that announcement, let everybody know that staff is working diligently on trying to expend money in the most efficient manner possible, knowing what our limitations might possibly be this year. So that being said, on this first page, there are a few things at the airport that are being added into the CIP. The first one there is the passenger boarding bridge. There's also a wildlife assessment being added to this current year. There's also some rehabilitation things out at the on taxiways out there for some out years. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing or a double-edged sword, but what I will tell you is that the funds for the airport under the CARES Act that was approved by Congress went from, instead of being a 90-10 split, a 90% federal, 10% local split, to essentially 100% federal. So these projects, we will be getting 100% federal funding for, where we typically expected the county to have to pay a percentage of. So those are new projects coming in at the airport. If you give me the next slide there, Megan. Under the bridges project, they added a line item for the cleaning and painting of steel bridges. There's no money being put into that this year. We wanted to, but that is going to be deferred to the following couple years to try to save money, hoping we rebound in this economy over the next couple years. Next slide. The drainage, we don't have any new projects under that category. Education, you'll see 3 new projects under there. These are not necessarily guaranteed to happen. What we tried to do is take the Board of Education's projected budgets for school construction and included those within our CIP as placeholders, so that we can kind of coordinate those 2 budgets and try to figure out where we're going to fall in line in those out years. So no money being fronted to those projects. We're just putting those in there as placeholders, knowing that they're going to come along in the out years. Next slide. Hagerstown Community College, they requested several projects that we weren't able to handle for this fiscal year, but one of which that's going to go into the program here is the second entrance drive widening project. I think that's the one where, not Yale, is it Yale? Yeah, Yale Drive coming into the backside of the campus would be a widening project for that. You'll notice there's no funding for this year. That's pushed out to the end years. The next project. So the next slide. Under the Parks and Recreation Department, a little bit different because they receive state funding through the Project Open Space money. This past fiscal year, they're usually about a fiscal year behind. So this past fiscal year, we received additional funding that higher above and beyond what we normally get. So there were a couple projects that were added in here, specifically the Antietam Creek Water Trail, the BR Golf, the Black Rock Golf Simulator, and drinking fountain upgrades. So those are the ones that are going to seek funding for this year. We also have money for in the out years for the Ag Center show floor arena, Black Rock Clubhouse renovation, and the Conococheague Creek Water Trail. Some of these are just going to be long-term maintenance things that we have to go through. So that's why they're kind of being added now as individual line items. Also under the Parks Department, you're going to see some things for Marty Snook Park out there related to the pool and some fields. They're further out in the out years. We are going to put a little bit of money toward the MLK Gymnasium upgrade. Construction probably won't start on that for a couple of years yet. And then some things that we're looking into out at Regional Park, looking at the dog park out there, some hiking trails, but again, looking at those further out in the out years. Public safety, again, there's new projects being added. Again, a lot of this is sort of maintenance and upgrading kind of things, but they are mostly for the out years. A couple of these we were hoping to get started this year, but again, being conservative with the budget, we pushed several of these projects out to further out years. So you can see there's 4 projects there under the public safety. Going to the next slide. Road improvements, nothing really too new here. We have some improvements at Antietam Drive and Eastern Boulevard. I think we were seeking to do that this year, but we're going to push that out a couple years to try and balance the budget, knowing we're not going to have that much in revenue. But we do have a salt storage structure that we're seeking to put in. So there's that project. Solid waste, there's only one project, again, that got pushed to an out year. for security upgrades. Our transit, the public transit development plan is something that's been always going on. It was just never a line item in the capital budget before. So it kind of came to everybody's attention that we should probably start budgeting for that, knowing that we were mandated by law to update it every so many years. So it just became a line item. And then some support vehicles that they'll be needing. And then underwater quality, we have nothing new under the sewer, but underwater we do have the Cascade Town Center water system improvements that need to be done because of due to aging systems up there that we have to take care of a couple of things. So you'll see down there at the very bottom, the 54.8 million that we talked about earlier. All of these projects that we have reviewed in staff's opinion are consistent with our comprehensive plan. They are moving the county forward in infrastructure improvements, especially in our growth areas and highly dense residential areas that are maybe like the rural villages in Cascade, et cetera, that are in need of infrastructure improvements. So what we're seeking from the members is a vote of approval that the CIP as it's been presented to you this evening is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
So members of the board, any questions? Hearing no questions, we would need to go through the roll again to give a recommendation to staff. Let's start, we'll go in reverse this time. Drew Bowen.
In favor.
BJ.
In favor.
Denny.
In favor.
Jeremiah.
In favor.
And I believe, Randy, you have to.
I'll abstain. Yeah, thanks, Clint.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just trying to stay ahead of things here. So there you have it, Jill. We have a consensus to move forward.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Sure. Next on our agenda, under other business, we have director's comment, and again from Jill.
Again, Jill Baker, Director of Planning and Zoning. I wanted to bring to the members' attention a recent court case opinion that's been brought down from, I believe, the Court of Special Appeals from the state of Maryland regarding the Bowman Cornfield site plan that Planning Commission members reviewed and I believe approved. I think it was 2017 now. That plan was approved. For those of you who aren't aware, very briefly, the approval of that site plan was appealed to the Board of Zoning Appeals by neighbors who believed that the county erred in the definition of what we were calling a mixed-use retail area. Their belief was that this was a truck stop and thereby not permitted within that zoning district. The Board of Zoning Appeals held in favor of the approval of the site plan. That opinion was then appealed to the local circuit court, where the circuit court basically overturned the decision of the BZA, saying no, this actually is a truck stop and therefore should have to go through the special exception process. They hung that decision around the definition of a truck stop and how the county defined the truck stop. Essentially, what they were saying is that the defendant in the case, Bowman, was saying that because the area was not being primarily, quote unquote, used for a facility for trucks, that it was not a truck stop. The court said, no, it's pretty clear in your definition that anything that has ancillary uses that would be associated with the trucks coming into the site would basically define it as a truck stop. So then the defendant in that case then appealed that to the Maryland Court of Special Appeals, whereby the circuit court's ruling was upheld. Again, supporting the idea that the county erred in its interpretation of basically what's permitted in that district. So that kind of leaves us, I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed on where that stands. So there's some question marks about from people about, where do we go from here? There's really nothing that the Planning Commission needs to do at this point, obviously. It's really in the developer's court and how they want to proceed with development on that parcel. And I just wanted to make sure that I let you guys know where that all stands, given your interest and participation with the site plan process. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those if I can.
Any questions from members of the board for Jill? Jill, I don't hear any questions. I think we're probably all pretty aware of that and understand that there's not a whole lot at this point the Planning Commission would be called on to do. All right.
No, not at this point.
I'm looking at the this evening's agenda, and it says upcoming meetings are Monday, June 1st. However, I just want to remind everybody that we do have a public rezoning meeting scheduled virtually for Monday, May 18th. Just a reminder that we will be conducting that meeting virtually. And I also want to thank everybody for their cooperation and patience tonight as we work through this this process. I think overall it went fairly well. I certainly cannot wait until we're able to conduct meetings in a normal way in person. But in the meantime, this is what we have to do, and I think we did a decent job of it. And I want to thank you again for the work that has gone into it and the thought that has gone into doing it this way. And again, thank you for your patience as we work through some of the awkwardness of this. Having said that, then I need a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
We've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. Thank you, everybody.